couple questions. First off, do women typically pay more for car insurance under the stereotype that women are bad drivers, even though statistically men receive more traffic violations or are involved in more car
Men drive more
accidents? Yes. Are men more likely to receive a promotion over a woman who has the same qualifications? Yes. Do men in
promotions are based on competency? Are men more likely to work longer hours, be available on weekends, put in that kind of time? Yeah. Promotions are also based on, I don't know, how pleasant are you to work with, right? Also, who's getting the promotions right now? I don't think it's you guys. So, nice try, ma'am.
demanding jobs ever get asked, who's taking care of your kids? Or is that only a question asked to women working demanding jobs?
I don't know, call me crazy, but the one who has the ability and the privilege of carrying the child and the miraculous ability to then feed the child with her body. Yeah, it makes sense that maybe, that's like the first expectation. Also, and the bigger point, I think, at least as a woman, when did that become an insult? I know we kind of know when. Rise of the feminoids. Well, it's not an insult, lady, but we know where you stand. We know where you stand with it.
Because it's the assumption that they should be the sole caretakers of their children. Yes. Have you ever had to walk home or walk to your car with your car keys interlaced between your fingers like you're freaking Wolverine? No, you.
Have you ever been expected that just because you're the man, you have to go downstairs when there's a bump in the night? Have you ever been the one expected on the date to, I don't know, take care of the mugger or the one who has, offended your honor? Are you the one expected to do that? No?
You don't have any reason to do that? Oh, okay. And are you affected by a hormonal cycle that can cause extreme pain, discomfort, illness, yields a financial burden, is experienced by half of the population, and yet carries a stigma and is granted no attendance accommodations? No.
Huh. It sounds like maybe you might get in more accidents because of all that. I mean, goodness gracious, that's so bad for us. Oh, right? And it sounds like that promotion might be a little too much to ask because of all this giant affliction you have. Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. I forgot you're strong and independent. Depends on the conversation, depends on if we're trying to be the victim or the hero. Schrodinger's feminist.
Oh, you don't have to do that? Oh, okay. And have you ever had to worry if you can gain access to a life-changing medical procedure? And if you're not allowed to do that, you could face persecution, because currently women can be punished for receiving a medical procedure and doctors can be punished for providing that medical procedure. And yet the other party who took part in that impregnation, men, they currently don't receive any punishment for their involvement. So yeah, honey, check your privilege. Couple questions. First off,
Well, I bet she never gets censored for these sorts of things. Huh, that seems privileged. Because I certainly, if I was saying this the other way around like I am right now, I certainly have to be careful about what I say. Certainly get demonetized all the time. Because the men that I'm speaking up for, because of all your privilege, it's a lie. It's a total lie. And as far as that procedure she was just talking about, she called it life-changing. And that is honest, because it's not the life-saving thing. That's totally different. The medical stuff, they try to save the baby, they try to save the mother. That's baloney. But do the men have the rights to what happens? No, they don't. They have no say. It's the woman's choice, right? Her body, her choice. Her baby, her choice. And the men don't get a say. Don't you love your privilege? Aren't you enjoying it so much? Don't you love the privilege where you could get called up and sent off to some conflict somewhere? you never know when a banker's war needs to be had. You never know when we have some armaments that need to be blown up so companies can build more. You're so privileged, men, to be able to do that. Aren't you enjoying it so much? The nerve of some of these chicks. It's just, you go, this one's supposed to be a smart one. I believe this is the when Pearl had her debate, right? She debated a feminist. I believe this is her. This also is the one, Dr. Bronte, is the one that's gone around and tried to defend the deletus of the fetus, right and left. I'm here to say male privilege is a myth. Welcome back to Far From Eden. She didn't say anything that I haven't heard before, and probably you haven't heard before. The difference between most of you guys, because most of you are men, is that I've heard it to teach it to me. When I was in 6th grade, I had a female teacher whom I loved, and she was sort of, very feminine. And she taught us and I believe she taught, it was to the girls, if my memory serves, and she taught us to carry our keys like that and be very alert. And I get it. You want to be safe. There are bad people, everywhere, right? There are dangers, especially in this day and age. However, the way it's taught is basically, oh my gosh, be afraid there are predators around every corner. And are we ever taught that, most firefighters and policemen and things like that are men? Are we ever taught like, oh, appreciate your dads, appreciate the men? Like, no, it's just, danger. They're so dangerous, whatever. And so that gets this line of thinking going. It was like line by line propaganda out of her mouth. And then I find this article written April 9th, 2025. And I about burst into flames. Why men should shut up about the burdens of masculinity. So now, it's not just about your privilege. Now you should shut up about being burdened, about what I was just saying, right? About, hey, no, actually men have, responsibilities, obligations, etc., that all of society expects of them. So I think what has happened is they realize that we're out here saying, no, it's not about that. It's not a privilege. Should we point out in society who has the privilege? It's definitely us. I am one of us. I know. Look, if my car is broken down on the side of the road, people gonna come help me? Are men gonna stop and help me? If I'm a man and my car is broken down on the side of the road, is that going to be the same? No, it isn't. It certainly isn't. Just the fact that doors get open for me constantly. Now, I do walk with a cane, so sure, there are, that thing. But men primarily are the ones that open the door. There are women here and there that do. Mostly, I think, because they don't want to look like a bad person. Like, let's let the door fall on the disabled girl. But I feel like they would. Anyway, that's probably just my bias. I certainly have a bias. Look, I've been burned because of this situation we have going on with the chicas. But I know y'all have been burned way worse. So, this was written by going to try to pronounce it. Yaris Iqbal. Iqbal. No idea where the gentleman is from. I assume it's a gentleman because you got to have the men out here. You know, simp's got a simp. And it was published. It looks like it was published Patriarchy. That's the name. Like, this is just, they just spewed into the internet. Anyway, I'll stop ranting. Here we go. This is how they've shifted the narrative. Patriarchy has started a new PR campaign, rebranding the male jailers as emotionally wounded inmates. You guys are jailers, by the way. And we've changed it to say, no, you're emotionally wounded inmates. How dare you? Yeah. In the Indian Express, for instance, Shraddha Upadhyaya declares that Freudian slip, I thought that's what they were going to say. That while masculinity poses an obvious danger for women, it is self-destructive for men as well. It's a danger to women, masculinity is. Do you know what masculinity does? It encourages the man to run into the fire to save the people. You guys remember those California wildfires not that long back? And that woman said, like the assistant chief or whatever she was, if your husband's, laying down upstairs in a fire or whatever, then he got himself in a bad place. That was her response to, can she go and lift him out and stuff? I guess there's not enough masculinity there to be strong enough and have the whats to get up there and do it. Masculinity that built the Panama Canal, the Hoover Dam, skyscrapers, before there were like cranes and stuff to do it, just sitting there on a steel I-beam. Darn that masculinity. Such a threat to the women. I'm sure glad that all this tech, was built and the lights are on and, the men are on the oil rig. Better knock all that off. You're hurting the women. At the heart of this assertion is the myth of male inarticulacy. The author writes, quote, men have not collectively spent enough time articulating their experience. What sounds as progressive empathy is actually an elision of patriarchal power. Silence is a privilege, not a wound. Women are very verbal. And what this is telling me is that if you're not like that, it's because you get to be. Why do we decide that the very verbal, all the articulating, is the good way, and the ability to keep it together and not just blah every little issue and make a big deal about everything is the bad way? Sometimes things need to get done. Sometimes you need to get on with it, Men don't need to articulate their experience because the entire world already does it for them. Hold on just 1 second. I had to press pause for a second. My doggy needed me just for a second. So that's the reminder to please hit like on the video. 1 like equals down with feminism. Okay. Male subjectivity isn't hidden. It's hegemonic. It's the silent setting on which the rest of society performs. To say men haven't spoken is like saying a ventriloquist has been quiet because the puppet is the one moving its mouth. I'm sorry, but It's almost like they saw my whole Manipulated Man series and they were like, no, that's wrong. This society wasn't built on the backs of men. But the thing is that y'all are not complaining. You're doing what men do. And that's part of the problem is you have been silent, because you haven't stood up for yourself. You haven't called out the evil of this whole thing. You believed it was all about equality when it never was. And even if it was, you believed it's okay. The times are different. No, it doesn't work. It's just not how it's all set up to be. Doesn't mean we have different value. We are valued the same. But this is in defense. They don't like what we're saying here. This is to shut us up. Isn't that ironic? You guys need to talk. You guys need to talk. Oh, don't say that. The truth is, not speaking has never been their burden. It's their privilege. The unmarked status of masculinity is not a void begging to be filled with emotional journaling. It's the luxury of never having to explain yourself. Feminist speech was born from necessity, from being written out, flattened, erased. When feminized subjects speak, it is often insurgency. When men stay silent, it is an absence. It's structural dominance. It's how power hums when it doesn't have to shout. There you go. You guys are so privileged. You don't even have to say anything. You have no complaints because you have it all. It's so easy for you. Maybe it's the first time you're hearing it, and I'm using sarcasm, of course, in case we have any foreign listeners where it's a little trickier.
My video yesterday responding to this man about male privilege had some of y'all fired up, and so many women commented so many better examples than the ones that I even used originally. So it's time for a part 2. Did you know that women are 47% more likely to be seriously injured in a car accident because the crash test dummies used in safety testing are male crash test dummies designed to be the average male proportions, and female crash test dummies weren't even utilized until 2015. They're not government mandated, so not every brand uses them, and when they do use them, they're mostly tested in the passenger seat because
I don't know. I'm no scientist. Women might get injured more in car accidents because we have finer bones. We are more delicate. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? There are countries where women aren't even allowed to drive. Well, that's one way to look at it.
The misogyny continues. And did you know that women are 1.7 times more likely to suffer adverse side effects of medications because the clinical trials used to determine the proper dosage were male-dominated trials? Because let's completely ignore the fact that men and women process drugs differently and have different metabolisms. So, yeah.
Let's completely ignore the fact that it's more men that go and take the risk of, problems. They go and say, I'll try it. I'll do it. If you have a problem with the fact that women aren't testing the drugs, well, maybe you should speak to the women that aren't participating.
Super great. Have you ever heard of the pink tax? It's not actually a tax, but it's a statistically higher cost for female marketed products that are identical to male products. For example, female clothes that are identical to male clothes on average are 10% more expensive, and little girls' toys compared to little boys' toys tend to be 5 to 13% more expensive. And this inflation of cost, on average, is estimated to cost women $1,300 a year for identical products just because they're marketed to women. And now let's talk about how men are praised for doing the bare minimum, like babysitting their kids or helping with chores, as if they're not their kids and their chores.
There are some wives that quit their jobs to go become life coaches or do whatever, follow their dreams, what have you. That's interesting. And I don't think that it's very nice to say that men are babysitting their kids. Those are their kids. And as far as the products, I'm sorry, I was trying not to laugh before. It's like, yeah, I mean, things cost whatever the market will bear. And did you ever wonder why they can do that? I'm just sorry. I'm just saying. Maybe women just buy the products because they're willing to spend more and not pay attention to the cost as much. Maybe we're easier to, I don't know, con. Maybe. I don't know. It's just a question.
That just need to be taken care of. And when men reach high powered positions, are you ever accused of sleeping your way there because you couldn't have possibly gotten there on skill, merit, or qualifications? Of course not.
No, but they're accused of being power hungry, narcissistic, all the rest of it. And maybe some of them are. But y'all remember Kamala Harris and how she was accused of that? And y'all remember how it was true? Sometimes it's true. Sometimes it's true. Come on. Come on.
Not. Or the fact that girls mature faster than boys, but when we're younger, girls are just told, oh, you just have to be patient. They mature slower than you. Instead of telling little boys, oh, women actually mature quicker than you, so you should be looking up to them as role models and leaders and see how they handle situations.
I've never heard that before. Oh my God. Look up to them as role models and leaders. It's about superiority. They want to compete with you and they want to beat you. It's always been like that ever since the garden. It's why this channel is called Far From Eden. But in a way, we're not that far from what happened in Eden, are we? We're far from the perfection that it was because, I don't know, similar things to this right here that we're talking about.
No, you're never told that. Or what about how when little boys like little girls, they're mean to them, and little girls are just told, oh, they're mean to you and they like you. And then we're confused why so many women love toxic men as if it's not something you're taught to do. Yeah, how about instead we teach little boys that's not how you treat women. If you like them, you're not mean to them. Show them respect and affection. It's almost like we can combat this, but these are just examples to show you how the world is designed to cater to men. So again,
I just can't. I can't. No, it isn't. And I remember kindergarten. It's not just the boys that are mean. And they tease, right? It's not mean. They tease. Girls can be cruel. And it isn't a playful tease, is it? And trust me, the little boys certainly do get corrected. But okay. Thank you for that, ma'am. Feminist speech was born from necessity, from being written out, flattened, erased. She sounds erased. When feminized subjects speak, it is often insurgency. Oh yeah, I read this already, but we're reading it again. When men stay silent, it is an absence, it is structural dominance. It's about how power hums when it doesn't have to shout. It's funny, you can read it over again and not realize it for a second because they just keep repeating the same things. But we have to know about it. We have to read it because we have to call it out. It's been too long. Some might say over a century, where men have been expected to stay silent, told to be quiet, don't complain, just go and do what you're supposed to do. And they did. To the point where you're mules on a plantation, being worked to the end. The author mourns a supposed deficit men, she says, are trapped in cycles of inherited emotional silence, while women have led movements, been theorized into feminist studies, and had their upliftment turned into a charity case. Poor men, left behind by all the crying and organizing. Nice sarcasm. But here's the thing. The son doesn't copy his father's silence because due to historic pattern of emotional deprivation, he copies it because it pays dividends. Do you ever know that your silence in just doing what you're supposed to do as the work mule benefited you? A father who didn't hug isn't a tragic figure, he's a blueprint for power. Emotional silence isn't a burden men carry, it's the currency they trade. It cloaks them in control, competence, and patriarchal seniority, making them legible as real men, inscrutable and in charge. To put it plainly, silence isn't an emotional wound, it's a weapon. A performance of stoicism that conveniently blocks accountability, shields them from vulnerability, and renders their inner life everyone else's problem to decode. That's women. That's us. It's a man writing this, saying, okay. In contrast to men, women, according to the author, bicker, gossip, complain, cry. But this isn't just a different mode of sociality. This expressivity arises from a political necessity. Women talk because they must, because they're not presumed to be heard otherwise. Their speech is not a sign of comfort, but a sign of survival in a hostile terrain. Emotional honesty among women is not a luxury. It's a counter practice to the violence of the masculine norm. But the author turns this into a deficit, as if women's ability to collectivize and express themselves leaves men behind. This is classic reversal. This is like playing Uno, and it's like you hit the reverse twice. That's what I feel like. It's like they're saying that that people in the defending men are reversing things, but it's like that's what you're doing. This is a trick of communists and, Schnazis, because you can't say that word. Accuse the other of that of which you are doing. The victim's coping strategy is treated as privilege, and the perpetrator's comfort zone is cast as a site of suffering. That's what they're doing. The system isn't failing men, it is men. The author's errors of understanding can be attributed to how they imagine masculinity as a vertical, top-down ideal, a towering, ever-receding image of the real man against which individual men constantly fail. Hence, the male psyche becomes a space of insecurity, lack, and failed performance. But this misunderstands what masculinity is under patriarchy. Masculinity isn't something alien imposed upon men. It is the very atmosphere, the air that they breathe, the medium through which they navigate the world. It is structural comfort, not structural strain. Men may agonize over whether they're man enough, but that anxiety occurs within a world designed to support their authority, emotional entitlement, and ontological centrality. Is the pilot of the plane the privileged one on the plane? Or is it the passengers who can recline, go to sleep, get their little blankie and their pillow, listen to music, watch a movie, and arrive at their destination safely? And get snacks. Who's privileged? The pilot, because he gets to fly the plane, because he gets all that authority? The responsibility that comes with something like that is great. The pressure, the responsibility, all of it. You could miss your plane as a passenger. You don't have to show up. The pilot, he's going to show up. He's got a serious job to do. This is what I think is the best analogy. It's saying, the man has all the authority and all the privilege, this, that, and the other. The pilot gets to be serious and silent while he's flying the plane. passengers are the one that have to complain about the plane's late or this, that, or the other, or there was turbulence. They have to have a voice. The pilot gets to be quiet and stoic, and it's the same thing to me. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. Oh, so when men feel insecure, it's more like a snag in the system, a temporary turbulence. I didn't know that was I didn't know. A temporary turbulence in a flight path that remains otherwise guaranteed. I honestly didn't read this beforehand. Their minor inconvenience doesn't disturb the broader field of privilege they move through. In fact, their insecurity is often just a form of recalibration, a way of realigning with that horizontal force field of normalized male dominance. I think this was written by AI. It doesn't matter. It's the sentiment that matters. It's how they are coming back at what we are saying when we defend men and stick up for masculinity and praise it. This is them fighting back. Because what Blondie there with the midriff was talking about, they realize that they're losing. This is them losing, by the way. Honestly, this is them going, oh crap, we got to twist it around. And honestly, you sound ridiculous. Anyway. Oh, here you go. Contrast this with what women face. They don't live within masculinity, they live under it. For them, masculinity is a vertical structure of domination. It bears down on them through legal institutions, marital rape being uncriminalized in India. Legal institutions. Did you guys know that they're in your favor? Swear. Economic dependence, unpaid labor, violence of the snuggle struggle type, and coercion. Aesthetic and emotional policing. Their insecurity isn't about failing to measure up to a standard. They are often excluded from the standard entirely. It is not about failing to become something, but about being made to endure something, being misrecognized, violated, or erased. Yeah, we've got it so tough out here. The pressure women experience in patriarchy is structural antagonism, not a gentle dissonance. It is not a failure to harmonize. It is being fundamentally inharmonious with a world built without or against them. So when the author uses insecurity to name the male condition, she erases the profound difference. The word suggests fragility, even innocence, that men are under siege by masculinity just as women are. That is a false equivalence. For men, insecurity is often the feeling of being insufficient for privilege. No? Dude, what is your deal? Not the pain of being its object. It is the twitch of a subject who feels he is not dominating well enough. Not the pain of being dominated. That's the thing. Most men are not about dominating and competing. Definitely not competing with women. That's the last thing you guys want to do. It's the last thing you want to do. It's us that wants to prove something or pull you down or whatever from this perceived pedestal that you're on. It's a complete lie. Once we recognize patriarchy not as an overhanging code that imposes psychological burdens on men, but as an architecture of power, we gain the political ability to single out actors for their complicity and responsibility. The author notes that men, are, as per societal norms, to provide for home while being away from home. Yeah, I agree. I agree with them completely. But who produces these norms? The implication is that society, or patriarchy, is some faceless external authority that imposes a rigid mold on poor individual men. Well, aren't you saying that it does that with women? There is a deep sleight of hand in the author's theoretical strategy. She positions men as emotionally burdened by the system they didn't create, structurally uncomfortable with roles they're expected to fill, and passively conform to a masculinity they didn't choose. This is a false split. The system is men, their actions, their silences, their choices, their privileges. The pressure to conform isn't external, it's the mechanism by which men ensure the system continues to produce their privileges. Never heard such a load of baloney in all my life. The unease of masculinity is not a tragedy, it's a tactic. You guys are just working it so you have all the dominance. Just a bunch of Genghis Khans over here. Men, as a historically dominant class, collectively produce, enforce, and benefit from patriarchal norms. The standard of masculinity is not something imposed on men from outside. It is the very grammar of power that secures their privilege. Men don't just conform to patriarchal standards, they write them. And they do so in order to externalize reproductive labor onto women. Somebody has to make sure the woman has food and shelter and all those things while she's pregnant, while she's nursing, while the baby is young. This is like a little child who doesn't know what being an adult is all about. Reproductive labor. Calling it that and framing it this way is why we have a population crisis. Reproductive labor. Consolidate public space as male space. There are no male spaces. Where are there male spaces? We can't even have a manosphere without them saying we're all Andrew Tate. And secure the effective and material advantages of being the one who is served at home. The energetics of collapse. If men benefit from patriarchy, then why should they participate in its destruction? As we have seen, the dominant discourse around patriarchy and men tends to center their emotional suffering, pitching feminism as a kind of therapeutic offering. Patriarchy hurts men too, so they should care. That's what the men's rights movement basically says, because they don't like the intrinsic responsibility and obligations that patriarchy says men should have. They really do seem to want equality and same. We're all just humans. Maybe you should do this and you should do this. Maybe dad should stay at home. I personally understand that people make individual choices, but I also have the right to say, I don't think those choices really work out the best for them. I think that there's an order and that it's God's order. Now, am I like, you should go to church and da? No, because the churches get government subsidies in the form of being tax-free. So it's like a bribery, and that's you need to get down the aisle and sign that marriage contract, with the government. Go on a men's retreat and learn how to be a beta. No. I don't think that way. But this framing misdiagnoses the problem. Patriarchy doesn't primarily harm men. It benefits them through unearned authority, effective entitlement, and material deference. You have all the responsibilities and obligations. What needs to be foregrounded is not how patriarchy damages men's feelings, but how it depends on a fantasy of infinite energetic extraction from the emotional, physical, and reproductive labor of feminized and subaltern subjects. This isn't a metaphor. The emotional depletion, physical exhaustion, and psychological distress of women and queer people constitute a measurable and mounting energetic debt. Stress hormones, burnout, mental illness, chronic fatigue, these are not just soft data. They are thermodynamic signals of a system consuming more than it can replenish. I'm sorry. There are some statistics about men and them taking the permanent, ticket out of here a little earlier than would naturally occur. 4 times as much as women. Who's in distress? Good Lord. Oh, here you go. Here comes the communism. Just like capitalist agriculture depletes the soil, patriarchy depletes care economies. The result, collapsed families, the birth strike, increased intergenerational trauma, rising gendered violence, and global declines in marriage and childbirth, all signs that the system can no longer reproduce itself smoothly. Because of this, trying to say that being the primary caregiver is a burden and not a privilege and horribly oppressive and not appreciating and respecting the husband and father. Is it any wonder that marriage is failing? Incentivizing divorce, cash and prizes. Every thermodynamic system faces entropy. Indeed. Energy dissipates unless new input is generated. Patriarchy, like capitalism, arrogantly presumes an infinite capacity for care. God has provided everything that we need, as long as, governments and state and all that sort of thing doesn't get in the way and disrupt all of that. There's plenty of land, there's plenty of food, there's plenty of water. Scarcity is man-made. Every thermodynamic, entropy. We've been facing entropy ever since the Garden of Eden, and the fall has been a steady state of entropy. That is something I can agree on. But the way back, if there was a way back, is not what he's saying. He's sending us further that way. Good Lord. But energy doesn't lie. Feminized care work is being withdrawn, refused, or redirected. Right, because it's being lied about. It's being said that, oh, it's terrible, and you have a bigger purpose and a better purpose, and you deserve this and you deserve that. Queer and trans kinship formations are not anomalies. They are thermodynamic reorganizations. They reroute energy away from extractive systems and toward reciprocal low entropy bonds. This reads like, I went to university and I know a lot of big words, and I'm going to use all those big words and all my sociology knowledge, and I'm going to make it sound like I'm smart. I bet this person has an English accent. Pardon me for mine. Women often like to align with other marginalized groups because it helps put us into a category of perceived discrimination, oppression, etc. And it gives the appearance and perception that we are very virtuous and kind and understanding, and men clearly aren't. This is resistance not just in a political sense, but in a metabolic one. It's a refusal to continue powering a machine that runs on asymmetry and erasure. At least we're not being dramatic. So, should men be interested in feminism? Yes, but not because they are hidden victims of patriarchy, rather because patriarchy is an unsustainable mode of living. Yeah, it's unsustainable. I mean, it's only worked for, I don't know, millennia. We have tried this other way for, I don't know, 100 years, maybe 150. And do you want to measure the entropy with both? I mean, I'm not a scientist or anything, and I'm not good at math, but I have eyeballs and a little wisdom. Lord have mercy. The privileges men receive from patriarchy are not eternal. They rely on a system that is actively eroding its own foundations, like climate change. This isn't a doomsday prophecy. It's a call to recognize material limits. I think it's a lot like climate change. I think it's a lot like climate change because, bakery. If I wasn't so angry, it's funny. It's funny. We should laugh so that we're not, pulling our hair out too much. And I mean, this isn't news to you guys. It's just another way to say men are bad. Like, I can shorten this whole thing. I can shorten this whole dang thing. Men are bad and men get everything. All right. Oh boy. Oh boy. The world that gives men symbolic authority is also the world whose reproductive and effective infrastructure is collapsing. It's all your fault. Men can no longer assume that the housewife will stay, the daughter will care, or the mother will provide. That world is melting. It sure is. It sure is. And I guess that's your fault too, because I read that differently. If men want to live in a world where intimacy is still possible, where relationality is not forced labor, and where social reproduction doesn't implode, they must invest in the dismantling of the system that has served them. Not out of guilt, but because even power, once it overspends, crashes. Yeah, women. Yeah, this power that we've usurped, we all know it's leading to crashing. That's why so many men are like, let me research the fall of Rome and see what happened there, because I'm seeing some sort of similarity and I'd like to see if that empire looked like this when it fell. And it's weird because it did. And now I realize that Rome had a series of sort of collapses. If you look at the United States and the West, you could kind of see that too. But there was a final. Let's read just a little bit about the author real quick. Yanis Iqbal is an undergraduate student of political science at Aligarh Muslim University, India. Oh, there's going to be comments in the chat. He is the author of the book Education in the Age of Neoliberal Dystopia. He has published more than 350 articles in different magazines and websites on imperialism, social movements, political theory, education, and cultural criticism. I mean, it's almost a Saturday Night Live skit. It's okay. You guys, that's what they're coming back with. That's their next round in this battle we have. You didn't start the battle. You didn't start the competition. You didn't. Patriarchy is not privilege. It's just not. Any more than the pilot of the airplane has privilege. There's so much responsibility and obligation that goes along with it. And that's what men's rights people don't like, because they find that's unfair. And it is when it is not balanced, right? They have an absolute point in my eyes when it's not balanced by the woman having obligations, responsibilities, etc. Problem is, the goal of feminism was always to tear down patriarchy. It says so in the whatever of sentiments that the women brought forth at Seneca Falls in the mid-19th century. Something of sentiments. It's escaping me right now. But Declaration of Sentiments. I'm sure you guys all put it in the chat like 50 times over. That was always their goal. And men's rights movements were like, good. We don't want that. We want you to step down from your pedestal, and we want equality, and we don't want all these, assumed responsibilities and everything. And that's the problem in my eyes, because I think there's a perfect order. And I think even if you don't have the same belief system as I have, as in it's God's order, you have to see nature. And I don't think that all of this infrastructure and electricity and everything that makes it so that women seem equal to men in ability and talents and everything, or the same as men, I would say, that make us the same, it really doesn't. I think what we've learned in modernity is that it doesn't make us the same. We still have our intrinsic natures as people. And it's a beautiful thing. Why are we hating it? And at the end of the day, patriarchy is God, man, woman, child. And the thing is, imagine the man's holding the umbrella, right? And he's following God, and the woman and the child are under the umbrella, going, how come I don't get to hold the umbrella? It's like, it's windy and he's fighting it, but he doesn't complain. So the women don't realize all the things he does. This is about taking him for granted. It's about erasing God and taking man for granted. And yeah, the contempt, the absolute vitriol that the chick talk lady had towards men and children and motherhood, palpable. So, all the more reason for you to protect your peace. I feel like I'm ruining it by bringing you guys all this, but hopefully it's a little more palatable the way I bring it to you. I hope. Make sure you feed your souls with stuff other than this. Truth, nature. Get a dog. Dogs help. Just remember, I love you guys, and I will see you on the next one.